My name is Rajiv Khanna, and I'm a director of a training provider called Raj Khanna Associates Limited. We have recently put a couple of presentations on Agile Project Management and Scrum Master, and they've been around the Moscow prioritization and the second one on the role comparison between the two methods, Agile Project Management and Scrum Master as the qualification. So if you haven't watched them, they're available on YouTube. We were asked by one of our partners to do a short session on the difference between two terms which are based on the Agile principles. Build incrementally from firm foundations and build iteratively. So what is the difference between the term increment and iterative? First of all, if you look at the textbook definition, the word increment is an increase or addition, whereas iterative is the repetition of a process. So you're doing it over and over and over again till we get something that is right. And the Agile principle that discusses iterative development is saying we don't always get something right the first time, and therefore we need to keep doing it iteratively till we get it right. So in simple terms, without degrading the definition, we would say increment is about adding something, whereas iterative is about changing something. So how does this apply and how does it work? And similar to our previous presentations, we're going to base it on some of the things that we do in our everyday life. Now appreciate that certain things that we're going to talk about isn't something we're doing right now because of the situation around the world, but I hope we can actually demonstrate how these work based on our personal experiences. So first of all, if you remember, the Agile Project Management journey talks about pre-project, feasibility, and a lot of work is done in foundation. And then we start to develop things incrementally. Now, this is where the difference lies between doing things in a waterfall and doing things in the incremental approach. Incremental approach is when we have delivered something, we deploy it. And deployment means using whatever has been delivered. So the traditional waterfall ways will say we deliver, we review, we deliver, we review, we deliver. Whereas the incremental delivery, which is what Agile and Scrum are based on, we deliver something, get people to start using whatever we have delivered. And based on the feedback that we get from those users, we then go forth and deliver increment 2. So there has to be a period of actual feedback based on people using the system. So that's our incremental delivery. And within these increments, we have shorter periods of time, which in Agile are referred to as time boxes. And a standard time box should not be any greater than 4 weeks. Whereas in Scrum, they are known as sprints. So what do we deliver at the end of a time box or at the end of a sprint? What we refer to as something that is potentially deployable, i.e. we can use it if we want to, if we can. And that decision should be based on the requirements of the business. So what does the business need today? So if the business needs something today, then we should think about delivering something even though we know it's not complete. So it's a part of an overall solution. Whereas at the end of an increment, we deliver a deployable solution. So whatever we deliver at the end of this increment needs to be deployed. So I hope you can see the difference. At the end of a sprint or a time box, it's potentially deployable, whereas at the end of an increment, it is deployable. So we are going to give it to the users to start using it. So let's imagine the delivery of a pen. So in Foundation, we'll try and understand what that pen is actually going to consist of. So as you see, it's got the top, it's got the body, and it's got the inside, the writing element, the pen. The choice really is we can deliver the writing bit and the barrel at the end of an increment, or we can simply deliver the inside bit. So if the writing element we believe can be deployable, then that is what we will deliver as part of increment 1. Whereas in this example, as you see, we're going to deliver both as 2 time boxes or sprints. So that is the inside element, the writing element, and that is the barrel. So when we have delivered this element in here, we talk to the product owner or the business visionary and we say, we've delivered this and would you like to implement it? And hence the product owner, the business visionary will decide at the end of this, do we deploy? What does the business need? If not, they're going to wait till we have delivered the outside, and at the end of that, we'll deliver the pen without the lid. So that is an incremental delivery. Another example we might want to share with you is when we cook a meal, for example, at home. In our case, we actually went to a restaurant in Delhi, a nice Chinese restaurant. And traditionally, what we do is we order the at least 2 courses at the beginning. So when the waiter comes and says, what would you like to eat? We would traditionally say we'd like the starter and the main. And so therefore, that would have been at the end of increment 1. We were asked, how would you like it? So we said we'll make it mild. Now this was a restaurant in India. We'd order the starters, 2 starters, 2 main dishes, and a rice to go with it. The problem happened, the food itself, it was slightly hot for our taste, but secondly, most importantly for us, there was a lot to eat. The 2 starter dishes, there was a lot of it there. Now, had we done this in an incremental way, and to start off, only order the starters, start eating it, and then based on what we found and how we did, we should have really ordered the main course having started to eat. And had we done that, would have asked them to make the food even milder and only asked for 1 main course. Because we were in a hotel, you couldn't ask them to pack the dish and take it home. So the problem was we ended up wasting. And what I'd like to do is to get you to think about, is this is a different mindset rather than definitely a skill set. So next time you're trying to do something at home, think about doing things incrementally. So when you cook a dish, only do the starters. See what you think, and then cook the main. It's not always possible, but try and see if that works for you. So that's still an incremental delivery. We will come to iterative in a while. So here we go. Same example. This time we're going to prepare a dish. So what do we do while we're preparing the dish? We are going to deliver this iteratively, so it's only our starter that we are delivering, nothing else. So while this starter is being delivered, as you see, during the course of the production, or in this case, making of the dish, the solution developer, the chef, of course, would want to taste. But if you only ask the solution developer to taste the food, it's not necessarily what the business actually needs. So therefore, as part of this iteration, i.e. we can make changes to the dish as it's being prepared, we also ask people from the business to be tasting it. And in Agile and Scrum, we talk about collaborative testing. So we've got more than just one person tasting it. So therefore, we are getting feedback as the dish is being developed. So during this time box we talked about earlier, we are making changes to the dish as we progress along. So it might need a bit of salt, it perhaps needs a bit more garam masala if they are doing an Indian dish, or if you're making some sort of a Chinese dish, then maybe some of the ingredients that you're doing. So ultimately, at the end of this time box, we are more likely to deliver this dish than what the business actually needs. If you deliver the dish at this point in here, then it's difficult to make those changes, and hence one of the agile principle or philosophy you might want to look at, it's about encouraging that change. So changes are easier to bring. Another thing we say to you is, how does it all work? So when you're in the foundation part, understand what your end solution is. What is it that we'll finally deliver? And we do a bit of MC Hammer, a bit of music, we break it down. So you break the final solution down into its lower level components. So for example, in a meal, we had starter, we had main, and we had desserts. And then, having broken them down to the lower components, then decide which element would need to be delivered in increment 1, what would be delivered in increment 2. So also you will start to understand the dependencies between them. So in our case, we've said that our final solution, the end solution, is a three-piece suit, which in a very, very simple mode, we've broken it down to trousers, waistcoat, and a jacket. So you decide, depending on which country you're in, depending on what is it that you're after, depending on what clothing you have available, which of these elements should we deliver first? What is more important to the business? So in this case, we have chosen the jacket. So we're going to create the jacket. And as you see now, as the jacket is being prepared, we're going through several iterations. So when you have your made to measure suit, you go to the tailor and they'll probably just give you the body without the sleeves. And they'll make sure that fits around your neck very well and make little alterations. Then we put the sleeves on and you try and build the jacket. Then you'll decide where do the pockets go depending on where it fits. So there you can see now, I hope, the difference between incremental delivery. Incremental will be deliver the jacket first, then the trousers, and then the waistcoat. Whereas iterative is changes as you go along. So while the jacket, the trousers, the waistcoat are being made, we are making changes as we progress. Okay, so I hope you can start to see the difference. I'll share with you one very, very for me, an excellent example, I, as a director of operations, we are working with an organization called Grace Davison in Worms, one of the biggest catalyst producers in the world. And our company were there to deliver a laboratory information management systems. So what we had done, spoken to the laboratory staff and said, what do they want on the sample entry screen? So we use the traditional waterfall, and we actually went through, spent a considerable amount of time actually physically on a piece of paper designing what the result entry screen would look like. Once we decided that, we then went to deliver. So a screen that may look like this. On the Wednesday, the client project manager phoned me up and said the developer has put 2 extra buttons on the screen here, and they were not on the original specification. So how did that happen? I know nothing about this. So I then phoned our developer and I said, how come these 2 buttons have gone in? And he said, I was working with the laboratory staff. And while we were building the screen, we were actually changing some of the layouts, because once they started to see what that screen would look like, we changed the fonts, we changed the color. However, they also said, would it not be useful for you to put these 2 buttons in here, because you know what, when I click on here, it will take me straight, without logging out of this screen, it will take me to another screen. If you click on this, it will open up another system. It made logical sense to them, but because we hadn't gone through the formal change control process, I'm afraid our developer was told, sorry, you must take these off. Now that happened about 10-15 years ago. Today, I believe we were wrong. Me as a director of the company, the client. Because actually what they were doing, they were iteratively developing the screen. Because now with the experience, majority of you will realize you cannot design this screen completely up here because you don't know what it looks like. So you'll have an overall idea, but the detail of the screen layout, what buttons sit where, how the screen will operate should be left as part of its development during the iterative process. And that, today, I believe, if we had done that, we would have been far more successful in the delivery of our solution to meet the business needs, rather than saying to the business, I'm sorry, that's what you agreed here. Any changes must be a formal change control, and you have to pay for it. So there has to be a balance between what is asked and what is being delivered and how it's being delivered. And of course, remember the Moscow prioritization, because we would have said which of these fields are must, which are should, which are could. For this to happen, this iterative development, very, very crucial. We must have the teams working very, very closely. In the previous presentations, we've talked about the difference between the Agile Project Management team and the Scrum, the development team. So as long as we can identify who, as a team, decides would take on the business representation. So in our case, the 2 people from the laboratory would have been the equivalent of the business ambassador, or within the development team representing the business, i.e. the laboratory. This was our developer, and this would have been the tester. So we hope you can see why it is essential that the team come together and work very closely together. Whether you're cooking a dish, whether you are getting some clothes tailored, or whether we're doing something like implementing a new solution, it's important to consider the incremental delivery, and most crucially, the iterative development during that process. And for that to be effective, the development team, or if you're using Agile terminology, the solution development team, needs to ideally co-locate, or using technology today, they sit across wherever in the world and work with each other as a team. And hence, you can then also look at the concepts of the daily Scrum or the daily stand-up meeting, for which the team would take part, facilitated by the team leader. So we hope our simple approach explains to you clearly the difference between increment and iterative. But of course, if you are going to deliver things in a waterfall way, then we believe there is no concept of incremental delivery and iterative development within it. So we wish you well. Please look after yourself, your colleagues and friends, and the people who are looking after us. Thank you for listening. And as before, if you've got any questions, feedbacks you'd like to bring to us, please go through our website or follow us on Twitter or on LinkedIn.